Greetings Indie Warriors and welcome to I Dream of Indie. My name is Ole Gamer Joe, bringing you yet another review today as we look at Amazing Princess Sarah on the Nintendo Switch, a game that dates back all the way to 2014 on Steam PC. I thought the last game I played was pretty old, but wow. But hey, nothing wrong with these old games finding a new life on the Nintendo Switch and hopefully a new audience. This is an action platformer without much story to speak of. You play as a princess named Sarah, whose father is unfortunately kidnapped by an evil demon named Lilith. Now you'll need to travel to 5 different castles, tracking down this demon, hopefully defeating them and saving the day. Gameplay couldn't be any easier here. You have 4 basic commands that you'll utilize throughout the game. You move with the left stick, you have your sword attack and the ability to throw items and objects and enemies with the Y button, you jump with the B button, and then you have the X button to pick items up. Each of these castles is pretty straightforward actually. You do have a map in this game, but I never really needed to look at it at all as it's pretty hard to get lost. Most of the level design revolves around you following a fairly straight linear path. There's really no puzzles here. There's not really a lot to the level design outside of waves and waves of enemies being thrown in your path, and the developer really recognized that because without a ton of enemies, sometimes cheaply appearing out of nowhere, there wouldn't have been much of a challenge here at all. You will throw the occasional switch, which will simply open up the next path for you to progress forward. It's actually shown to you, so you don't really have to go way out of your way or explore the map at all in order to get to that next unlocked area. And outside of that, you have some platforming jumps that need to be made, sometimes with some disappearing tiles underneath you or something tricky like that. The platforming is actually probably mechanically the strongest part of this game, as the combat's really pretty boring and mundane. There is a combo system here. As you kill more enemies in order, you will gain more experience or something along those lines, but honestly, leveling up in this game is automatic. There's no skill points given out to you or anything like that, so it just feels like you're killing enemies and not really getting much stronger even though your level is going up. And the level design here is really just flat, and a lot of these enemies are brain dead too. The poor level design isn't helped by the fact that these levels just seem to go on and on. It's not a long game to complete on your first run. It took me about 2.5 hours or so, but the levels just don't go anywhere interesting. There's no puzzles thrown in your way. It's just a matter of dealing with the boring enemies, hoping you survive long enough to make it to a save point which will refill your health, and really a lot of the times you can just run right past the enemies, bounce on their heads, which is something you can do in this game in order to avoid damage, and that's about it. You don't even necessarily have to take them out. Everything gives you experience, but again, I never really felt like I was getting stronger, so what was the point? You can see a little bit of inspiration from the Castlevania series in this game with the ability to attack different candles or torches that are on the walls here, and that will give you hearts, but honestly they blended into the background at times and I didn't even notice, or I would forget that that was a feature at all. Honestly, one of the coolest features of the game is the ability to pick up your fallen enemies and then throw them at other enemies and hopefully create combos. The combat engine here is not quite sophisticated enough to support this concept, but it is a neat idea at the least. So what do we really end up with here? A game that just doesn't quite seem fully realized in terms of gameplay. I really did want some new skills. I think a cool experience system could have served the game well, because visually it's not a terrible looking game. I actually quite like the pixel art. The animations aren't half bad at all actually. You do run into those same enemy types like I mentioned, and that gets old rather quickly. Some of the backgrounds are a little bit stale and there's not a ton of variety, but they do at least try to change things up a bit between the castles, like giving you an ice zone for example where you'll slip around a bit, so credit there. Not an awful looking game, and really a nice sounding game with some good sound effects here. I actually thought the soundtrack was pretty dang good here, with orchestrated pieces that are fully realized. They almost feel too big for what this game is. You don't have any kind of epic massive storyline going on here, but you have a score that would at least allude to something large going on. But at the end of the day, the gameplay just doesn't back up the nice graphics and the sound design that was put into this game. Unfortunately, it's just kind of boring and not all that fun to play. I will credit credit the developer for trying some interesting things with the New Game Plus mode, like having a ghost that constantly chases you to add to the challenge, and there's quite a few of these, so you have multiple options to play the game again, but I don't think a lot of people are really going to want to play it more than once or twice, just because the levels go on and on. It's a boring affair, the combat's not all that exciting, you don't get any new powers or anything like that, so this one's pretty dull, unfortunately. It is a little weird that this game was released in 2014, and from what I can tell, this is just a quick and dirty port to the Switch. It ran mostly fine with a few slowdowns here or there with the handheld mode and the docked mode, but overall, you would hope a game from 2014 could port over to the Switch without much issue. So then, do I recommend this game? Not really, to be honest. They are launching it at $4.80 initially. The normal price here is going to be $8. I think that's a little steep. I'd say maybe $2 for this one, honestly, if I had to put a price on it, which I don't really like to do, but I just don't see a lot of value in this one when there's a market of these games that are wonderful to play for pretty much the same price, maybe a little bit more. You can do a lot better. That said, I will have to look into what this developer has done since, because I think they do have some talent. This was just a game that shouldn't have launched. It should have been worked on for another year or two, and then I think it would have been a much more enjoyable, fully fleshed out product. Thank you so much for watching the latest video from I Dream of Indie. We would now like to take a moment to pay tribute to our great indie warriors who support us through channel memberships. Marky Mint, Ray Lynn, Mitchell Hall, JRS the 8th, Bunny, CPM, Jesse, Julian Colbus, Jen Rose, Haley, Skeptism, C Coil, CJR, Adriana Amato, Nathan Moore, Chris Jackson, Kevelo, and Bill T. Thank you so much for all you do for independent developers, publishers, and for I Dream of Indie. Everybody else, please head down to the description box below. Let's defeat the gaming echo chamber and bring a voice to the voiceless ones in gaming.